Meeting is called to order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Dr. Day,
Second.
Mr. Trost. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gilio,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Trost,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Dr. Carter,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
and Miss Laurie. Absent.
You will join us. Once we have to approve her electronic participation.
Okay.
So the second item is electronic participation by a school board member. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. DePaul, Mr. Andrews, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gilio,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Mr. Trost,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Dr. Carter,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
motion carries.
Mrs. Lowry, welcome to join, as and when you can. Dr. Day, Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Please rise for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day.
I know, it's a rush everywhere I go today. Yeah, it's raining.
Next one is the chair's comments. I just have one comment to make. We have a special school board meeting on June 6th at 5 p.m. To look at the budget, because the calc tool is available. Dr. Edwards' staff is working hard to make sure that all our numbers are in place. And we have to have those, the budget to the city council for their June 11th meeting. So we'll have a special school board meeting here just to discuss the budget at 5 p.m. I yield the rest of my time to Dr. Edwards.
Okay, all right. So you guys know we had graduation this past Sunday for both Heritage and EC Glass. And I will say, as having done a lot of graduations and having to be the person to call the names, that is so nerve-wracking when you're calling the names. You want to make sure you get it right. But on the other end, I don't know if you know, but while the students are standing there waiting for their name to be called, that's another nerve-wracking feeling, because sometimes we skip them and they're just standing there. Well, Sunday, we actually had that happen. And one of the things that we have to do when we really say every child by name and by need, we have to say the names. So we skipped a student who walked across the stage, got the diploma, took the picture, but the baby's name was not called. So at the end of the ceremony, when we were cleaning up, that's when we found out. So we couldn't even reroute her back into the line and try again, which is normally what we would try to do. But every student deserves to hear their name called. And since we have an opportunity and a public broadcast, I would like all of you to join me in congratulating one of our Heritage graduates, Miss Janine Torrey Peters. So I'd like to just give a special shout out to Mr. Beatty for just being so wonderful at the end of the ceremony. But I really want to say to Janine, our graduate, and her mother, Mrs. Peters, they were so wonderful at the end of the ceremony, so polite. And as a parent, you know, you wait for that moment and everything. That is such a special moment. And they were willing to work with us and allow us to do this. So for all my babies out there looking, sometimes we adults make mistakes too, and we have to make it right for children. So to Janine Torrey Peters, who I'm a fan right now, having spoke to that young lady. She is going to go places, let me tell you. Thank you for being a role model and still doing the heritage way and representing #1 Orange Country as you did at the end of graduation. And we are so happy here to celebrate you. To her family, you didn't get the opportunity to hear it while you were in the stadium, but hopefully you are hearing it now. And if not, replay it on YouTube and all of our channels, because this is being recorded so that we have that opportunity. And lastly, to represent the Student Services Department, because often sometimes when these things happen to children, other children, out of concern, want to know what happened. They start to text you and call you and say, how come your name wasn't called? How come your name wasn't called? And that can make you feel a certain way. You really could have a little bit of angst behind that, which is another reason why we as adults have to own our stuff. And this one was on us by accident, but it was on us to make it right. So to all the friends of Tori out there, girlfriend graduated, she represented, she is now an alumni of Heritage High School. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Peters, and you know what we'll do is, I'll open up to any board members who have a message for Janine Torrey Peters.
Congratulations very much.
Yep, and keep up the good work. Your plans are, your future's ahead of you, so, you know, keep moving forward no matter the obstacles.
And thank you for the mature way in which you handled this situation.
And I want to echo that.
Congratulations.
Ms. Preston's right on, very mature. That speaks volumes to this young lady and her character. Our sincere apology for that mistake, but your character has outshone everything that was there, so very good.
Look forward to hearing good things about her.
Absolutely.
Would like to see her, maybe we'll go to her college graduation when she graduates, and let us know, the college graduation.
I'll throw the party.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is F1, Division Literacy Plan. Dr. Edwards.
As you guys know, we have the Virginia Literacy Act, and part of that requires that we, as a division, complete a division literacy plan for this year, really focusing on K-5, but absolutely K-12, pre-K-12, and community as well. So we have been in training for the last 4 or 5 months, our team, our literacy team, and what we would like to do tonight is present to you our division literacy plan. We do have to submit the plan before July 1st, so we obviously have to get it here tonight to all of you all. And we'll talk about some after the plan is presented, some activities. But I do want to stress that our literacy plan, while it starts in the school, it expands to the community. So all my community members that are out there, our families, anyone mentoring and tutoring our students, there is an opportunity, space, and place for you in this plan, because it's really shouldn't just be a Lynchburg City Schools literacy plan, but rather the City of Lynchburg literacy plan, because we're all working together to help our children. And at the end of it, leadership starts at the top. So I will have some homework for our board members to start on for kicking off our literacy plan. And I've already talked to some of our partners. And Ms. Pugh and I and the team will take the opportunity to also go over to City Council throughout the summer and into the fall to share with City Council through public comment what the literacy plan, parts of the literacy plan. But I would like to thank Ms. Pugh and Dr. Brown for their leadership as part of the team, along with myself, but really invite up the worker bees who did the bulk of really getting this together. Getting a little feedback in here, Austin. Okay, the worker bees got this together. That sounds like Dr. Brown. Okay, so from our Curriculum and Instruction Office, we have our Director of Instruction and Program, Ms. Jen Cruz. We also have our supervisor, instructional supervisor, Mrs. Sarah Campbell, and our literacy specialist, Mrs. Courtney Bennett. And Missing is Miss Kim Patesel, is not with us here. She represents the Special Education Department. She was also on the team with us, and sitting somewhere in the back, I saw her, is Dr. Lillian Kozlowski, principal, who was also on that team. So we had a team of 8 apps, even though everybody else had 7, but we had 8. So I'm going to turn it over to this fantastic team, who, by the way, did the most amazing professional development for staff last week. So we would like to thank you all for letting us have those days to work with our staff. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having us up here today to speak to you. And I'm going to provide a brief overview of some of the pieces for the Virginia Literacy Act that we started with, just so we are all back on the same page. And then we will update you on the amazing work that this team and many members of our school community have contributed to this year. I don't know that.
It's coming, it's coming.
There we go. Okay, so as we're moving through, again, to recap, Virginia Literacy Act, there is a strong focus on supporting the science-based reading research through evidence-based literacy instruction. We have geared all of our training around that primary piece. The phase 1 focus was K-3 and phase 2 is 4-8. That just simply means some components that we'll talk about a little bit later, such as our student reading plans and some of those areas, the primary being with our lower grade levels, because we know that that's where that foundation starts. The preparing teachers, which again, Dr. Edwards spoke to, we are so very thankful for the time that was given to us last week and the positive feedback that we were able to receive, and just the refreshing comments that we got and how folks are feeling moving into next year. So that preparation has really started already and has taken off as we move into the next phase. We do have new literacy screeners called VALS. Most recently, you've probably heard PALS, but we will be making that switch fully for the 24-25 school year. The K-8 evidence-based literacy curriculum, we are making sure that we are pushing that proponent. We'll focus K-12, but a big proponent in K-8. And the K-5 core adoption that we just went through. Again, thank you for that piece as well with Benchmark. That's what we were able to get started on. And the K-8 supplemental materials are still coming in cycles as we speak. So we've already started the work on that supplemental material as well. So what does that look like for us, the continuation of professional learning, and what does that look like as a plan? Again, we started last week with the help of all of you. Teachers are completing coursework, or will be completing coursework, that focuses on evidence-based practices. We have several of our folks already involved in letters training. We have 1 and 2 currently going, and we are currently waiting on the Canvas course to be released. It is a release date of May/June. May has already occurred, so I'm going to assume that it's going to be June for us when we pick that up. As soon as that's released, we will get that information out to our folks so we can go ahead and start. As Dr. Edwards alluded to, big proponent of Virginia Literacy Act and just an LCS focus is partnering with families to provide at-home resources for continued support. We want to make sure that we are collaborating with the community. We want to wrap around our kiddos in every facet that we can through a continuation plan and through consistency ultimately, because we want what's best. We want to really, really focus on that beyond and not meeting a specific goal, but meeting and exceeding that specific goal. And that's requiring the division literacy plan, which is why we stand before you today. That K-5 focus is for 24-25 and is due, just like Dr. Edwards said, prior to July 1. The 6 through 8 focus, which will encompass our whole K-8, is in for the 25-26, but we will start the preparation for that in the fall of 24. Members of our division literacy team, Dr. Edwards provided that list to you before, and I am very thankful for the opportunity to work with each one of these members here. And we've also received a great deal of input from our administrators, just throughout the trainings, from some of our educators. We're getting out to some community places and receiving a great deal of feedback and getting the word out about the literacy focus that we have this year. And we've had a lot of folks ask us about training for the upcoming school year within the community, so we're really excited about getting out ahead of that for the summer as well, for that consistency purpose. So what is our literacy vision? Lynchburg City Schools students will develop the necessary skills in reading, writing, speaking, and listening that are foundational for creative, collaborative, and civic-minded expression using language. Student instruction will be anchored in the use of high-quality instructional materials rooted in science-based reading research and evidence-based literacy instruction. Students will demonstrate comprehension, critical thinking, and application of vocabulary, knowledge, and skills across content areas. Students will identify challenges, craft solutions, and assess results to foster personal growth and contribute positively to their school and community. We want to make sure that we encompass again and wrap around the whole student. We believe in beyond the bare minimum, and we want what's best for our students and know that these necessary skills will help them exceed and reach the goals in which they hope to attain.
All right, so it's important that we're able to share this vision with our Lynchburg community. Therefore, by creating effective communication channels, that we want to ensure that all staff members, particularly educators and leaders, understand and support our literacy vision for the school division. This is crucial to the success of our plan and ultimately student achievement. So we are going to look at the following communication strategies. We are going to conduct regular professional learning opportunities with educators and leaders focused on the literacy vision. These opportunities will dig deeper into specifics of the vision, implementation strategies, and how together we can build on our knowledge, understanding, and application for science-based reading research. We will develop comprehensive documentation and resources that outline the literacy vision, strategies, and best practices. These resources could include manuals, handbooks, videos, and online modules for staff where they can access at their convenience. We will establish feedback mechanisms to gather insights and suggestions from staff regarding the literacy vision and plan to ensure that all staff feel heard and are valued within this process. We want to empower our school leaders to advocate for the literacy vision by providing with the necessary information and tools, set expectations for our leaders to incorporate discussions about literacy into staff meetings, professional learning sessions, and other relevant forums. We will foster professional learning communities where educators can collaborate and share ideas and discuss data relative to literacy curriculum instruction. With the support of our administrators and the division-level team, instructional team, these communities can take the form of grade-level teams or subject-specific groups, as well as across interdisciplinary teams. And of course, we want to recognize and celebrate all of the achievements and milestones related to literacy within the division across our community. We will ensure that the literacy vision is seamlessly integrated into instructional practices across all subject areas. We want to provide support and guidance to our educators as they align their teaching strategies and instructional practices within the literacy goals of our division. And of course, we want to maintain open and transparent communication channels, whether it's in person, electronic. We want to keep staff informed about updates and progress and upcoming initiatives related to our literacy vision. So sharing the progress of our literacy vision within the community includes student success metrics, is going to be an essential part to building our trust, transparency, and support. Lynchburg City Schools will implement the following to communicate all of our progress. We're going to regularly present and publish public reports highlighting the progress towards our literacy division plan. It might include student metrics, reading proficiency rates, standard test scores, graduation rates, and other data points. We will, our schools, we will engage engage their parents in the broader community in supporting our literacy vision by offering school-based events. During these events, attendees will learn about the importance of literacy as schools share updates on initiatives, strategies, and outcomes for increasing student achievement. We will develop interactive online data dashboards that allow families and community members to track progress on our literacy plan in real time. These dashboards can include key metrics and trends, achievements, so that we are in a visually engaging format. We'll use our social media campaigns. We'll share success stories, testimonials, milestones related to our division literacy plan.
We'll use Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and other broader out to reach our broader audience to encourage community engagement and support. We'll issue press releases, seek media coverage to showcase achievements and progress related to the literacy plan, and we'll also collaborate with local newspapers, radio stations, and television stations to highlight success stories and positive developments. And of course, we want to engage our local businesses, organizations, and community groups to support and promote our literacy plan vision. We want to engage our partners in joint initiatives, sponsorships, or outreach activities aimed at advancing literacy education in our community. We want to offer workshops and seminars for parents focused on literacy strategies and resources and ways to support their children's literacy development at home. We can use these opportunities to share information about progress on the literacy plan, as well as solicit feedback from our parents. And finally, we want to establish feedback channels such as surveys or community forums to gather input and perspectives from community members regarding the literacy plan. We will use this feedback just to refine our strategies, address concerns, and then strengthen community engagement efforts.
And in using our high-quality instructional materials, so we've already adopted our core materials. And core means this is the instructional materials that will be used in all of our classrooms with every student from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. These high-quality materials were selected based on the Virginia State-approved list as meeting all of the qualifications for science-based reading research. Benchmark Advance, as you know, was approved by this board on March the 19th, 2024. Lynchburg City teachers have already begun the professional learning with this on instructional practices that will be used in 24-25 school year. Supplemental instruction materials are going to help support the core learning, and they're going to be used with the materials in addition to the benchmark. We'll continue using foundations in K through 2. We'll use Hegarty in K and 1, and then IXL will be used in grades 1 through 5. These materials for Hegarty and foundations support the phonics and the phonological awareness that our classrooms need in addition to the benchmark advance. IXL will be used to help support the literacy, the skills in literacy. At this time, though, we're still waiting on the state to approve cycle 2 and 3 for the other adoption materials. The intervention materials that we will use are materials that we are going to use to help students who need more support in literacy skills in addition to both the core and the supplemental instructional materials that we've already adopted and that we're already using. We're going to continue to use UFLY, and that is used with our K through 5 students. UFLY is through the University of Florida Literacy Institute, and also Bridge the Gap, which is our 3rd through 5th grade part of Hegarty. We will also add a program called Lexia Core 5 Reading that will be used with our K through 5 students and that will support them in the area of literacy. In addition, our special ed students will continue to be able to use the Learning Without Tears program to support their core learning. Again, with our intervention, we're still waiting for the cycle 2 and 3 materials to be adopted and or to be approved so that we can make decisions on what else we will be using for that. To ensure the Virginia Literacy Act evidence-based reading research training, we already have begun training Benchmark last week for our elementary administrators, teachers, and staff, and we'll continue that training in July, August, and then also throughout the 24-25 school year. We're going to use our professional learning days throughout the year to continue our teachers' learning. All school professional staff will be required to also participate in an asynchronous course through the Virginia Literacy Partnership. It's the Canvas course, and it will consist of 9 modules that will help teachers grow their knowledge of evidence-based reading research. In 23-24, you can change the screen. In 23-24, we began training teachers in classrooms and our specialty areas in both Volume 1 and 2 of our letters, which is Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. This course provides information to the participants that helps them gain the essential knowledge and skills to master the fundamentals of literacy instruction required to apply and transform student learning. We have also begun the letters course for administrators to help them provide them with the professional learning that they need to support their teachers in this journey. Our literacy team will continue to provide professional learning on all of the instructional materials to teachers that will use this with students to ensure that the teachers have the understanding, the knowledge, and the application for evidence-based reading practices. To monitor the student assessment and progress, we will monitor student progress throughout the year with multiple sources. Each of the sources will provide data on the students for their growth and progress in the area of literacy. Some of the assessments will be completed 3 to 4 times a year throughout the school year, and others will be completed weekly or as the teacher completes the unit's assessments, or the unit material, sorry. Classroom teachers, literacy coaches, teachers, and administrators will work together to look at the data to help provide the students with the necessary reading plan for each student in the classroom.
So what does that look like at the division level? We've talked to you a lot about the school level and what's occurring there. Assessing at the division level, we know that that is imperative to make sure that we're monitoring and providing the necessary resources, intervention, and supplemental materials that are needed throughout the year. So for us, it looks like classroom walkthroughs, which we have already started in this past year, and we're very, very successful. We were happy to be out into buildings and just taking a look and seeing what everybody was doing, and providing feedback so that we can improve as we go. The division level instructional walkthroughs, the collaborative planning sessions with lesson planning debriefs, that's happening on a weekly basis through our PLC models. The division assessment data, our curriculum and instruction team, along with our educational data analysis and principals, will work with monthly to analyze that data. And then what does it look like as we're engaging parents, caregivers in the community, working through parent workshops and training sessions, that digital resource hub so that we can provide resources and it's one click away, making sure it's accessible to all of our families, the parent-teacher communication platforms, the take-home literacy kits that will be provided, and community partnerships. I hope that it is evident how passionate our team, not only our team is, but how excited we truly are to be able to implement. This is a lot that we gave you in a very short amount of time, and it's a lot for our teachers and our community members and our students. But I will say it has been a very, very positive rollout and a very positive reception in the work that we've done. And I'm just so very thankful that you all have been so receptive and have asked the questions that you have, and that has helped guide us on our journey as well.
Dr. Edwards, the floor is open. Ms. Lowry?
Just a couple of things. On the 14th slide where it has collaborative planning sessions, principals, coaches, and teachers in weekly, I can still tell you, even when I was teaching, but even now, as I still help and volunteer, that the teachers are still asking us for us not to have PLCs every single week. Maybe every other week or once a month, but they need unit planning time together. And at the elementary level, because we don't get the breaks, or they don't get the breaks secondary gets, you're having your planning time, it can be taken away all the time. It's very frustrating. So if that could be like tweaked so that they have more of that time. And then I heard you say that the parent engagement piece, these workshops, will they be at the schools, community centers, or both?
Yes.
So all of those? Okay. Because I feel like the people we've talked to that run the community centers feel left out.
Yes, ma'am.
And they want to help their children. And I know for a fact we can get free tutoring help K through 12 from the colleges that need credits and stuff.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. So we are very aware, thank you for that. And as we're getting out into the community and getting that feedback, that's the same thing that we're getting. So we are very intentional in making sure when we said community, we mean community. We need to meet people where they are. I spent some time at a community event last night, and that was one of the pieces. We need to make sure that we're meeting our folks in our neighborhoods, that we're opening our schools, we're doing what we need to do. So we are very aware of that, and thank you for bringing that to the forefront so we could address that.
Yeah.
Regarding the PLC times that you addressed, we will be working with our administrators during our leadership part 1 in June to talk about what that looks like for the PLC model. Dr. Brown actually just did some work during our professional learning week based around Solution Tree and what the PLC model looks like and entails, so that we make sure that we address those needs as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Carter, and then Ms. Preston.
Why the change from PALS to VOWS?
Yes, we have. Yes, ma'am. It's
Is there more, you see the benefit of that, or?
we can't tell you whether we've seen a benefit or not because it'll roll into the 24-25 school year. I can tell you that we are going to try to get ahead of it with 4 through 8. So we've already requested, where it's set at K through 3 right now, we're already requesting to do some pilot pieces for 4 through 8 so that we can get out ahead of that work. I just think it's, the goal is for it to be centered around that science of reading concept. So it's just a little bit of a more drilled down, effective approach to take to that for a more individualized approach to really enhance and dial into the student's needs on an individual basis. That's primarily what you're going to see with that.
And is it more student-friendly? Does it appear to be more student-friendly to use? And
I'm going to say, I will comfortably say it's more student-friendly in the sense that it's an individualized approach, so we're meeting our students where they are. So the data will support that.
And so I think I picked up, but can you give an example of the home resources?
Well,
Just like an example of
what we've already done or what we're intending to do.
we're intending to do.
Okay, so some of the home resources that we're intending to do, number one is to update our resource list and what's provided, some take-home materials for tangible so that they're able to, for parents, guardians themselves, opposed to just an online platform for them to be able to work with students. It could be paired reading passage, it could be some tangible items, it could be a variety of just different pieces that we're going to use, but we want to make sure, again, that that's inclusive to the student, so it's not one particular component. It's really going to be based on what the student needs, and again, wrapped around those 5 pillars for science of reading to make sure that we're dialed in to what the students' needs are.
And the science of reading, the science-based reading research, I did some, or was doing in some trainings, and they talked about the phonics versus, you know, where you see the purple and the child student says purple versus like the actual reading, really learning how to read without all those cues. So is this more of, what is this? The science of, I mean, is there a short way to say that or no? I mean, will this get to what really?
The science of reading is just, it's research-based, and it is research-based. It's not just a program, it's research that started way back in 2000. And so there's just lots of new research on what's the best way to teach a child to read. And so, and what are all the strategies? So like, I think what you're referring to, the cueing system, that we used to use, you know, like look at the picture and, you know, sound it out. Now they know that that's not the best way to teach a child to read, that now they need to know the phonics, the phonemic awareness, the phonological awareness, all the pieces of the pillars that go into the science of reading. So it's lots and lots of research out there about
great.
it. So yes.
And just one more. We used to do Lole. So that, when you do that assessment, is it going to be similar to that? Because the students used to say, well, we know somebody was here because they knew that somebody was in the class doing the Lole, but not like that. Okay.
Ms. Preston?
That's gone, thank you.
I simply want to say I commend you for looking at different strategies for teaching children to read. As many children as there are, there are as many strategies that are necessary because we don't all learn the same way, nor do we all have the same life experiences. So making all of this available to all of the stakeholders, I think, is well worth the effort.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Day?
So I'd like to understand what all this means from the perspective of a student. So imagine that I'm an elementary school student. I enter second grade, say, and all my teachers are expecting me to be reading at entry level for second grade. But then as the year progresses, the various assessment results say I'm not keeping up with where I need to be. So I presume that's where the intervention component comes in. So what I want to understand is, from my perspective as a student, what am I going to see? What's going to happen to me as a consequence of the fact that I'm falling behind?
I really truly think the short answer to that is high care and high respect in the classroom. It's not the goal to separate or say you're not meeting. It's our goal through this process to find out how we can meet the needs of the students. So where I may be struggling with phonics as a second grade student, I may be soaring for vocabulary. So we want to make sure that we're honing in and focusing specifically on the needs of the students through that individualized plan, and just providing intervention may not be necessary. It just may be supplemental. So when we're doing some of that small group work, we can focus in and say, I've got, when we're talking about a flexible grouping system, it may be that we have a group for small group that day, and we're heavily focused on phonics. And 3 of my classmates were all focused on that phonics lens. So it's not meant to look different appear to look different for a student. It is simply to hone in and focus on their very specific areas of need.
So that, one implication of that, I mean, that sounds wonderful. So one implication of that, however, is that the teaching staff in the classroom is having to keep track of where each student is, and what this student, what we're trying to do with them is different than what we're trying to do here, so this means very high demand on teaching staff, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what happens now.
And I just want everyone to understand that.
And thank you for pointing that. That's why our educators and instructional assistants, our administrators, our central office staff, everybody is really working very hard, and data is driving that instructional realm every single day. You are absolutely correct. And what that looks like, if I am very intentional and purposeful in the work that I'm doing, it should look different just about every day, because I should be focused on what that individual student needs, the group of students needs, and I should communicate that to the parent to enhance those take-home materials, those resources, to say, hey, Jen is really, really doing well with her vocabulary, but we're seeing a little bit of a deficit in phonics. Let's go to this resource page and you can focus on, or I've sent home additional materials where we can focus on that. And we are doing enough of a data collection, I hope you could see that in the plan itself, to say, we're not gonna wait 8 or 9 weeks and let this go by. We're catching this frequently so that we can hone in and it doesn't become as large of a gap.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And just to comment on what he was saying too, is in a reading group, I would have students that need the same skill practice, and then, but as they get better, I weed them out, and then I pull others in that need it. So all year long, your reading group looks like this, okay? Until at the end, they're where you would like them to be. Yes, constant movement.
If nobody has questions, I have a couple. Thank you for doing that, Mr. Andrews, go ahead.
You asked a question.
Good.
I'm good. You have a question.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Will the digital resource hub have incentives for these families and their children to go to them outside the school hours? Credits, merit, anything?
I think a lot of our teachers, I know a lot of our teachers are already providing incentives for doing, for honing in on several of those components. So you'll just see a continuation of that work that's already being done.
All right. Can you, I believe in the early intervention, all those types of things, and to be able to have feedback early on is very valuable to see what direction you're going in. If you have weekly ELC
ELCs.
meetings, can that be tapered off as the year goes along?
Dr. Brown, I think, wants to jump in, if he may, to talk about the PLC. Dr. Brown, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Ms. Pugh. Yep, so just wanted to clarify on the PLC process and the work that we're doing. We really are reintroducing and clarifying the role of PLC with our teachers and our administrators. It is one of the most impactful things. And if you look at research and effect size and how to grow students, the PLC process encompasses all that. And the PLC is not a meeting, it's not when teachers meet. Teachers meet within collaborative teams. So if you look at it as a house, the PLC is the house. The collaborative teams are the bricks that make up that house. And so I think with the time that's needed for this, that's why we're really excited about the new calendar year schedule that you all approved, and giving us those times for teachers to have work days, but also having some professional learning time in there as well, so the teachers can move that needle. But everything that our team is doing, our literacy team, with collecting data, being able to see where students are at, taking care of them on an individualized level, all that works into those collaborative team meetings, allowing our teachers to focus on learning as opposed to just what is going to be taught. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want to have going on in our classrooms, is students learning, not just teaching that's happening without the outcomes and impacts of the learning that's taking place. And so, yes, it does take time. We're working with our administrators this summer to build that time into the master schedule. So that's protected time, that's important work. And you all approving the calendar schedule for next year, it's going to really have a huge impact. And we feel like that will lessen some of the time constraints for teachers that they're feeling in the crunch for time that they currently don't have in the current schedules.
Very good. There has to be an emphasis on not just adding, but also either replacing or removing while you are adding this very helpful work time. And this is different than the LP debriefs, which are weekly as well, correct, or no?
I'm not sure what you're referring to as LP
debriefs, the
debriefs.
weekly lesson plan debrief.
So, yeah, so those are different. That could be something like some of our support staff working with our teachers individually for lesson planning. There could be a variety of different things, but that is
Right.
different. It's categorized in a
I'm
different
just
fashion.
saying, good. Be mindful of removing, replacing, as well as adding on, because you can always add on, and people forget to take off their plate. Teachers are doers, right? Lastly, actually, I have a couple more. Are there any additional or reoccurring costs to us from your last presentation, like the take-home kits?
These are working within our system and the things that we have. We got a lot of resources, from Benchmark. I mean, it is, once those pieces start to come in, I think you all will be very surprised. Even our teachers, as we were coming in, and the presenters were like, you're going to get this, and you're going to get this, and you're going to get this. And they were like, oh my goodness, we might have to get another shelf or another location or another space. So the amount of resources that were provided through this adoption is incredible. I think you all are going to be very, very pleased once it starts to come in.
Great, great. Comprehensive communication. $1 million organizations like the school system everywhere are not known to be very effective communicators of their brand and just being very much upfront with everything and reaching the audience that they're intended to, besides the superficiality of just emails and such. So is there an idea or a plan that would break that well-known stereotype?
I'm gonna jump in, and I will say absolutely. I think Dr. Edwards mentioned it earlier on. She and I'll probably, get the help of some of the CNI staff, but we want to attend as many city council meetings as we can, and during public comments, and speak, briefly, 5 minutes, about the things that are happening with literacy. That not only communicates to city council, but it communicates to a different community who may not watch our school board meetings, but they may watch or participate in city council meetings. So that's one of our strategies. The other strategy, and it's listed on here, but we didn't go into specific detail, is when schools have their back-to-school nights, when they have a science night, math night, those types of things, it might even be a school play. There's always a 5-minute opportunity for one of us to engage with the families and the community members that might be there. So we intend to take turns and rotate and go to those events, and again, speak about the work of the Literacy Act and the change in literacy and focus in literacy in Lynchburg City Schools. We, again, will go out to do community engagement in community centers, offer opportunities for them to come to schools, to, locations that we have. But I think we've approached this in a very different way, knowing that it is important it's not just about Lynchburg City Schools, as Dr. Edwards said, it is a Lynchburg City literacy plan and literacy vision, and we've got to make sure that we are responsible for doing that. Dr. Edwards has already had conversations about partnerships and getting others involved at the university level, business level, that type of thing. So we've already begun the work.
Very nice. And the only thing I would suggest is to have a little benchmarks, not with the curriculum, but how many social media posts did you have last year that you could boost up to this year? How many emails are sent out? How many responses you get? If you have goals, 100,000 more, 500,000, that would be good for you guys to target. And then lastly, this similar is targeted thresholds. If you can have a targeted threshold for when you want to accomplish this progress. September, what do you want to see? What do you want to see in October, November? Not just the schedule that we're going to have this meeting to evaluate and get feedback, but where would you like the numbers to be? And are you going to focus on the schools that have grades that are really far behind compared to their peers in other schools first, or just see how the curriculum affects everyone at the same time and then go from there? I'd like to see, some targeted goals.
I completely agree with you with that. I think we have moved past and have been very, very advantageous in making sure that we're not sitting back and waiting to see what happens, but we get ahead of things, and we do that through collaborative measures to ensure that we're working with our administrators to drive the change here, and they specifically, as our instructional leaders, will know very much so who are our new teachers in the building, who do we need to get out and see immediately, where are we seeing some struggles at as we're starting to work through master schedules, where are some of our pockets or areas of concern that we need to pay close attention to. So we're working through those metrics right now to address those factors as we're going through, not to sit and wait and say what happened with benchmark in the first 20 days. Part of the work that we just did with the professional learning plan is what does your first 20 days look like? That is completely mapped out for K through 5. One of the proponents we did not mention in all of this, just because it looks a little different, we're starting some work with our pre-K, the Haggerty component, to make sure that we're getting out ahead of this. And while we have our kids here, we have over 300 pre-K students. We want to make sure we are reaching them early and often. So in response to that, it's not a sit back and wait. We are passionate about the work we're doing, and we want to drive it, and the only way you can drive that is to continue to monitor that and collaborate with others to spread that message and get it out.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And you've been standing for 30 minutes, but I got 2 small questions. I apologize for holding you for that long. We appreciate everything you have done. It's a wonderful product. And I can speak for the whole board. I think we are about academics, and I'm glad we're moving in that direction where reading, writing skills will be honed on. The piggyback on what Dr. Day was saying, the learning outcome assessment, are we tying it to the SOL passing rates at the year end? Because you got elementary school data for all the elementary schools year after year for reading. I have seen that, right? So are we tying it to, so the improvements will be shown, as you was asking, in that 24-25 SOL results?
I think some of that is based on that, Dr. Gupta, absolutely, but we also have to focus on how are we preparing before we get to the SOLs for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. What are those academic measures that we're hitting in pre-K, K1, and 2 as well? And some of those individualized student reading plans will help us know where we're growing to and what those growth assessments essentially look like, so we can get that preliminary data before we just specifically focus on the SOL realm. And I will stand here and say that is extremely important to note, but that's not our end-all be-all. We want to make sure that we're showing growth. And all of the alignment for our benchmark assessments, we're going to actually do some training with our assessment components to ensure that they are common across the board, but all of those lead up and are aligned to our Virginia SOL. So the short answer is ultimately yes. That is all aligned to what we're going to see for the outcomes of the SOLs because of the new standards and alignment being there.
I've been coughing for 1 month, and every time I go to a doctor, he gives me a new medication. But the cough is not going away.
Correct.
So there has to be a standardized measure which you can take it to any district in the Commonwealth of Virginia and say, our students are as good as yours. And SOL, right now, that's the only benchmark which is standardized across
Yes.
districts. So interventions are great, but how do you measure the effect of those interventions, the outcome assessment? That's what I was leaving.
I was thinking, piggybacking what you're saying, I think that these third graders, this upcoming year, when they go through this literacy, the one way we can look at it and see the progress is they have taken SL in third grade after they've been in the Literacy Act for a year, and then when they have to take they take so many in the fourth grade, they don't take a full load. You'll see from year to that year, and then they have to take it in fifth. So I think the measurement you're looking for in SOLs from the Literacy Act, we'll see in that group that's past kindergarten, first and second, in those groups.
Because our average SOL is about 52, 50 to 56%. So first will be the filling up the gaps, so they are reading to the level we are teaching them and to achieve.
yeah.
But thank you very much. Appreciate you very much, and good job.
Thank you, thank you.
Dr. Edwards.
Hard.
Dr. Edwards.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand these out because this is going to be our first homework for July when we go to the July. But you just heard a very long 4-sentence literacy vision, and part of what they said when we were developing our literacy vision is it's got to be something that people can hold on to and communicate. So how many of you remember all 4 sentences in the literacy vision? It's pretty big. I'm going to give you a short version of what our Literacy Act is in 2 words. So if anybody says, what's the Lynchburg City Literacy Act about? 2 words. Minutes matter. Minutes matter, right? So when you talk about, and I'm going to answer all your questions. So when I talk about PLC time, what we do with those minutes, the choices we make, they matter. So we have to go into PLCs knowing that we only have this many minutes to really collaborate around this important thing. Not the field trip, not anything else, but minutes matter. When I'm home planning for my lessons and my reading groups and, even cross-content, what I do with my time, the choices that I make matter. Minutes matter. When I want to come into a school and do some things and take some instructional time away to do some other things, we got to stop and think. Minutes matter. When I'm a principal or an administrator and I need to get in the classroom so that I can provide that support for my staff, but yet there's some other meeting or call or whatever, minutes matter. So we have to actually put our hands up and protect the time necessary for our kids to really develop while we're doing this literacy plan. So you will hear me sometimes when it'll be, what, we're gonna do this and this and this and this, and I'll say, not today. You know why? Because minutes matter. We want to give our teachers the time to work with the students. We want to give our community members who want to come in and use the Crystal Edwards tutoring program that just does it all. Well, that tutoring needs to be aligned with what our students are learning, because we know we can confuse them when I'm using one terminology and the teacher's using another one. Then I go to the after-school club and there's something else, and I come back to class, I don't know what to start. So when I talk to my community members, I'm going to say, minutes matter. Do you have a few to learn a couple strategies so that we're in sync? Because if you have time to get in sync, then we have time to really build the tutoring. So that is our literacy plan. We know that parents are busy. We have had numerous after-school, evening, everything you need to know to help your child with, right? Just fill in the blank. And then we go for the attendance, we'll communicate, and then there's all 14 families that are there, and 13 of them already know everything you need to know. Minutes matter. Our parents are coming out to support their children. We need to get some of those minutes to really help them. So almost everybody, if there's a second grade chorus, second grade performance, our parents are gonna be there. Guess who else will be there? We will. And in between, changing from one song to another, here is, Dr. Edwards and Mrs. Pugh for a 5-minute matter about what you can do at night during reading time with your child, right? Here's how you do that. If you have pre-K, you do not have to just grill them in on sounds and letters and stuff. Vocabulary is so important for our young children. Vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. So let's start with that language development with your toddlers. Minutes matter. What are you going to do with that time? So our whole entire literacy plan is wrapped around minutes matter. When we are providing professional development, minutes matter. When we're having our meeting time, and I'm going to have that with you all because we have a lot of school board related minutes that kind of pull us a little bit. So during the day, we need to be in the schools. So for us as leaders, to support the leaders, to support the teachers, minutes matter. So you'll see throughout this plan where we're really carving that time to really devote to our young people as we develop our literacy vision, all 4 sentences. So since that starts with the leaders, and one of the things that I was charged with was really crafting the vision, we had to have certain things in our vision. But what I have given to the school board, which will also come down through various channels, working with our community partners, our families, are those 4 sentences that we had for our division literacy plan. And then what is your role as, we're starting with school board, so this is homework for school board, we'll get back to it in July, but I want to start to explain it. What is your role as a school board member? So the first thing that as we look at developing necessary skills for reading, writing, speaking, and listening that are foundational. As a school board member, what does this mean for you in your role, and how can you support Lynchburg City students? So let me give you one example of how you already do that. Student reps. We allow our young people to be guest student reps, to come here, stand at the podium, and do what? Speak to us, present to us, share with us, answer questions from us. So as a school board, you're already providing an opportunity for students to do that from a school board lens. Imagine if you're a parent, a teacher, a principal, whatever your role is, a tutor, we need to unpack what does this mean to me as whatever my role is, and then that helps us stay in sync. So one of the first things we're gonna do with everyone is unpack our literacy vision and go through what does it mean to me. And then when you look on the back page of this, there are some checkpoints. We put 2 in because you talked about ongoing assessment. So we'll start with a semester at a larger level here. What have we learned during this first semester? So we'll take a minute, because minutes matter, to look at our progress as school board. And then what does that mean for where we go next? And what does that mean for next year? So unpacking and really understanding what does this mean, because we don't want anyone to feel like they're not a part of this, because it is everyone's, this is everyone's literacy vision for our city, and everyone can help out in some way, shape, or form. So I just wanted to give school board this first, because we'll be the first ones talking about what does the literacy vision mean to us as leaders of this school division, and how we model that for the rest of our folks on down. But if I said, what's our literacy vision in 2 words, folks? Minutes matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. In the spirit of minutes matter, let's move to item F.
That's good.
That's Spring 2024 Custodial Assessment Award Recognition.
Oh, me. I think he's waiting for you to give him the.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Woodman.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Edwards. I hope everyone's doing well. This is one of our favorite things that we do twice a year you will recall when we did the fall 2023 awards, we wanted to recognize the really, really critical leaders in all of our school buildings that are making a tremendous impact on our students in terms of the learning environment that they're in every single day of every single school year. So as you know, there's lots of really important things that we do as a school division, but it takes a whole organization to create those learning environment opportunities for our students to have a great place to learn, to be happy, and be healthy, and to be safe in their place. So we like to bring forward, after our custodial assessments that occur twice per year, the schools of distinction at the secondary and elementary level, as well as schools that have shown tremendous growth from the previous assessment in terms of the quality of cleanliness in those buildings. To say the least, we've been doing this for about a year for a number of assessments. We have seen tremendous growth in the cleanliness of our buildings throughout the division. There certainly are the schools that have the bragging rights, but we are seeing positive growth throughout the school division. And that is what we are all here to do and talk about, and to grow and be better. And so I want to turn it over to my colleagues, Mr. Don Floyd, our Director of Facilities and Maintenance, as well as Ms. Shirley Rucker, who is our Environmental Services Supervisor, to hand out these awards.
Well, thank you, Dr. Woodica. Good evening, Dr. Edwards, Dr. Gupta, School Board. It's my pleasure to come before you tonight to do the second round of awards for the custodial assessments. Like he said, I couldn't have said it better. We've seen vast improvements at all schools. It's kind of taken off and got some traction as a competition, and we hope that continues. If I can, I would like to take just a moment and thank some other people in the facilities department, if I could, just real quickly. We've got a great team over there. I want to say thanks to my Assistant Director, Boyce Hamlet, Supervisor for Grounds, Brian Green, certainly Shirley Rucker as the Supervisor for Environmental Services. And these are the people that, these guys work tirelessly. They work extra hours just to help make this division a success. I want to thank just the maintenance technicians. They work every day in the buildings trying to keep the heat on or keep people cool. So I'd like to thank just our HVAC team, the plumbers, electricians, the painters who are busy right now painting the inside of Dunbar Middle School. And then all our general maintenance technicians that do hard work every day. But also wanted to thank the grounds team who keep the exterior of our buildings looking great, our athletic fields up to par, and they even worked this weekend both days behind the scenes at graduation. So I wanted to thank them specifically. So I'm going to start off, and I know there's some representatives from the schools here, so as I call your school, your name, if you'll come up. Receive the award. I know Mr. Kirk would like to take a picture of you with the school board. So we're going to start off with what we call the most improved at the elementary level. And that award tonight goes to Lincoln Elementary, Principal Dr. Lillian Gozlowski, and I'm not sure if any of their custodians are here. Very good. So come on up. So the head custodian for Lincoln Elementary is Lester Green, and then Lisa Francis and Michelle Davis are the custodians on that team. Very good. Yeah. Just walk right up here. And I will say the elementary gave us.
Congratulations. We're not going to let you hide in the corner. Very good. Thank you.
Come on, Dr. Woodica. You take one picture at a time.
Too much on, they won't see it. That's true, great places.
Congratulations.
The elementary level was probably the toughest competition we had. We had some really good schools. It was really tough to decide. So the most improved at the secondary level, this encompasses the high schools and the middle schools. That award tonight goes to Lincoln Middle School.
I think Dr. Dills had a family emergency, so she can't be here tonight. Okay.
And the custodians were Cordell Miller, Demeter Rosser, and Clinton Mosley.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Now it's time for the big prize, the big awards. And I think you guys remember this. We're putting each biennial winner's name on the award. It's not to keep unless you win it 3 times. How about we do that? You win it 3 times in a row, you get to keep it. So the school distinction, so school distinction at the elementary level, got the right one, is Bass Elementary. Principal Monica Hendricks and head custodian Yuta Patterson.
No, I don't think so.
Well deserved.
And the custodians was Maurice Booker and Brandon Ferguson.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Miss Rucker, come on.
She's slowing back there.
There you go. I can't say enough about Ms. Rucker. She's an invaluable resource to these schools, helping implement our custodial program, helping with interviews and things like that to hire quality people. So we added an award this time. We felt like we were leaving some people out, so we added some of our alternative sites as a category. So I'd like to, at this time, announce that the Fort Hill Community School has won the School of Distinction for Alternative Sites.
Wow.
Ruth McGee is the head custodian, and Chris Glover is the director of that facility.
And Darren Stutz is the custodian.
All right.
Nice job.
All right. Last but not least, secondary level, School of Distinction. This was, I had to go find this. They were hiding it at Glass. But this time the award goes to Sandusky Middle School. Principal Dr.
You gotta come stand in the horseshoe.
That's it. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Fight over.
And I just want to thank all the custodians for their hard work and the work they do every day, working with the students and staff to keep them safe and secure. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Thank you, Dr. Vodka. I agree with you. Our custodians do an excellent job. I've seen last year, remember we had flooding at EC Glass? And they were all working, a team from different schools. They joined you and the crew in 12, 14 hours without any whining. They were making sure that the place is safe for our kids. So thank you. Next one is public comments. Dr. Day.
I will read the relevant pieces of our policy concerning public comment. Persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures, and should not use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to the public official or employee's official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, role, and/or responsibilities of the school board. Please do not clap, boo, or express approval or disapproval of speakers. Speakers should be treated with respect even if you disagree with their positions. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of their presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. The total allotted time for public comments at school board meetings is 30 minutes. Voicemail messages may be played to be played are also limited to 3 minutes for individuals and 5 minutes for speakers representing a group. Priority will be given to in-person comments before voicemail messages in the following order. First, students. Second, staff. Third, parents or guardians. And fourth, community members. Public comments are reserved for the public to provide input. The board does not respond to comments, answer questions, or otherwise engage in discussion at this time. Now, in order for me to try to do my best and follow the preference of students, staff, parents, and community members, I do have to clarify one thing. On the list that I've been given, there's a column that indicates the category of each speaker in that way, but I have to ask Gail Goldsmith. I can't understand what's written in a column. It says INV. Is Gail Goldsmith here?
Yes, community member.
Community member, thank you. Okay. So, starting with students, I do not see any. Next, staff. And again, I do not see any. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm moving to parents, and we do have some parents. So the first parent on the list is Carla Jones.
I'm speaking on behalf of T.C. Miller PTO. So I want to start tonight by commending you, Dr. Edwards, on your responses at the City Council meeting last week. I don't always agree with you or like what you do or have to say always, but you defended LCS beautifully and shut down the City Council members who want to pretend that getting a strong public education isn't a necessity in our city. So thank you. I oscillate between immense sadness and pure anger on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. I watched the last week of school at T.C. Miller, knowing that most of the students celebrating the end of the school year have zero clue when they walk in the doors in the fall, if they walk in the doors in the fall, that the vast majority of the teachers they know and love will not be there. We're talking teachers with over 10, 20 years experience that are leaving, and they're leaving LCS altogether. The trust is gone. Right now, there are 12 certified staffing positions open at T.C. Miller of the roughly 22 total that we have, and that is not a final number. I believe that to be a conservative number with more coming. I assure you more are coming. I tried to warn you in January of my concerns. Without a plan, teachers feel immense uncertainty and have to choose providing for their families over staying at a school they love and provide incredible value to. I can't tell you the number of teachers that were so emotional at the end of the school year because they felt like they were deserting their kids and parents. They held immense guilt and grief for leaving, and that shouldn't be the case. So I will continue to stand up for TCM and for all of LCS, especially the elementary schools, and I will continue to ask, what is the plan? Dr. Gupta, you said at the May 14th City Council meeting that the next goal is to, I quote, create an environment where we can reduce the achievement gap, end quote. You want to, and I say you as in the school board, want to close the achievement gap. How are you going to do that overcrowding schools? If you listened to the City Council meeting last Tuesday, you heard two Bedford Hills elementary parents, one of them the PTO president, talk about having a second grade class of 28 students last year and how detrimental that was detrimental that was to those kids. And that was just one class. What happens when all the classes are that large? How are you going to prevent that from happening when you stuff 600 plus students in 9 elementary schools? Dr. Gupta, you also said, I quote, every time we start talking about academics, there's a distraction at our door, end quote. While I wouldn't call the future of our elementary schools a distraction, and I'm not saying that that's what you were talking about, but I'd say that making the decision to close 2 schools has taken some of your time and attention, but clearly not enough. Not enough time or attention, because there still is no plan. Again, what are you going to do with these 600 plus students? We've continued to ask over and over again, what is the plan? We get tiny pieces of we're working on it, more to come, And you say you hear us when we ask for transparency, but maybe you don't know what that means. So I'm gonna define it for you. According to Merriam-Webster, transparency means free from pretense or deceit, readily understood, characterized by visibility or accessibility of information. Dare I say we have none of that? Here we are 9 months down the road and we still have nothing. I'm so sick of asking and reminding you that I could scream. The master plan hasn't been on the agenda for months. And I'm not claiming to be 100% accurate in this, because honestly, I wasn't gonna waste 30 minutes of my afternoon combing through agendas. But at a quick glance, the last time I see anything about the facilities master plan or anything related to it was in November of last year, 7 months ago. There was a very brief discussion of the rezoning plan, I think in February, but that's been it. That was 4 months ago. The facilities master plan should be on the agenda at every school board meeting until everything is set in stone. This isn't a minor discussion. What you are deciding on is the future of LCS. How does that not make the agenda month after month? Keeping us in the loop with what is happening, the decisions being made, is the definition of what transparency is. How are you supposed to make a plan if you don't discuss it? Unless you're doing it behind closed doors, 2 people at a time, which is the opposite of transparent. And the fact that you're pushing back talking about pushing back the strategic plan for 1 year is infuriating. This is the time to create a new plan. You should have been discussing and evaluating the current one all year long to help you determine where to go from here. Evaluating it has to happen first and could have been invaluable in making decisions about these 2 elementary schools deciding to close. Now it's gonna be kicked down the road again. I've got a lot more to say, but please let me finish this because this is only positive. I want to thank you, Dr. Carter, and you, Mr. Trost, for your service, for your unwavering support of the students and families of LCS, and for fighting for and supporting, doing what is in the best interest of every child by name and by need. You have no idea how greatly you will be missed. Thank you.
The next parent on my list is Colleen Larkins.
Well, it has,
Sorry.
it has been a year, has it not? No matter where you sat in this room over the last year, it has been frustrating, it has been sad, it has been heartbreaking. Some of you directly asked us to walk across the street. That's what we did. This situation, for most parents, seemed very one-dimensional until we started digging. I think I'm more aware of anything in Lynchburg, of city council, of school board, than I ever wanted to be. But one thing I hope that you know and you realize is that we stood up here each and every week. We walked across the street. We had meeting after meeting because we love LCS. I think sometimes in the frustration that has gotten forgotten. For those of you who weren't at last week's city council meeting, I hope you go back and you listen. 22 parents, 22, from every school, I can't think of one school that was not represented there, spoke about why our city should fund public education. Because they love it. Our kids get things at LCS they could not get otherwise. My son is outside right now working on a virtual reality game that he started because of a grant. And it's continuing into the summer because of LCS, because of great teachers and great principals who see he has a gift and want to challenge him. And that's one kid out of thousands. So I just want you to remember that. I know this room's been frustrating. I know we've been frustrated. I know you've been frustrated. But one other thing I want you to know is you have this city's attention. Not just LCS parents, but I've been to Brews and Budgets. I've sat in city council meetings. Community members are paying attention. People who want to bring businesses in, like Framatone, they're paying attention. When they have large paying jobs that are coming into Lynchburg, our city is paying attention because guess where they want those people to live? Here. And guess what the very first thing they look at when they move here is? Our schools. So what I'm saying to you is I know you've been frustrated asking for money. I know you've been frustrated not getting the capital improvement plans passed. And I know you've asked, where have your parents been? Where have we been? We trusted the process, and that's on us. We trusted that our city would make good decisions for our children with the finances that they had. That hasn't been the case. Schools didn't fall apart yesterday, but we're paying attention now, and so is the city. So ask for the things that matter. Ask to fix our schools. Take some of those creative solutions that have been brought to your table and ask for them. Because we can't keep advocating if we don't have anything to advocate for. Simply saying give more money is not enough. I've seen the budget. I know we have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fixes to make. But overcrowding classrooms by closing schools simply because we don't want to ask for more funds, and I get why. I just want to make that super clear. I get why you don't want to ask for the funds. But now might just be the time. I hate that it had to get to this point. I hate that it had to reach critical mass for people to pay attention, but they are. And I know that no matter what you hear in this room, I hope that you see the city, the community, wants better, and we are behind you. We are fighting for you. And Dr. Edwards, I would like to echo what the last parent said. I loved the fight. I loved that you did not give an inch because our kids don't have an inch to give. So thank you for the way that you handled yourself at the city council. And for those of you who are headed off the board, thank you for your service. We truly appreciate it. For those of you who are left, please ask this summer while you think about things, what can we really do now that we have everyone's attention?
Thank you. The final parent on my list is Kim Sinha.
Thank you. I'm the parent of a non-binary, soon-to-be second grader at Sandusky Elementary School. A member of this board called Title IX updates protecting transgender persons unscientific and claimed that biology is not bigotry. So I emailed him a Scientific American article that refutes his claims, and his response was essentially, "I'm too busy, and I don't believe you." If you are unwilling to learn the science implicit in Title IX, you don't belong on a school board. Believe the science, not me. Neurobiological studies have found that the brains of transgender individuals resemble those of their gender identity more than their sex assigned at birth. Genetics research has found potential markers influencing gender identity. Hormonal exposure during critical stages of prenatal brain development has been found to contribute to a gender identity different from one's assigned sex at birth. Biology is not bigotry, does not follow science. It does, however, reinforce harmful stereotypes that certain identities are more valid or natural than identities that don't conform to expectations. Biology is not bigotry, is not just wrong, it is cruel. This board projects fear when confronted with LGBTQ issues. That fear was quite apparent and obvious in the way you cruelly rejected the It Gets Better grant. So, quoting from two-time governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, from a 2023 commencement speech, "When we see someone who doesn't look like us, or sound like us, or act like us, or love like us, or live like us, the first thought that crosses almost everyone's brain is rooted in either fear or judgment or both. That's evolution. We survived as a species by being suspicious of things that we aren't familiar with. In order to be kind, we have to shut down that animal instinct and force our brain to travel a different pathway. Empathy and compassion are evolved states of being. They require the mental capacity to step past our most primal urges. Title IX requires you, as school board members, to step out of your comfort zone, past your fear and suspicion of things unfamiliar to you. Edmund Burke, the philosophical founder of conservatism, said, "When you fear something, Learn as much about it as you can. Knowledge conquers fear. The article I sent to that board member is scheduled to be delivered to all your inboxes tonight. Read it. Extending Title IX protections to transgender students is based on scientific understanding. For my child and all LGBT students, I urge you to move forward with policies that conform to Title IX as the law requires.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to community members. The first member on my list is Gary Woodson.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the school board and the school administration and highlight part of the gender identity policy. I'm here to support the Lynchburg School Board and Youngkin's policies. The terms as set forth on Code of Virginia 22-11, parents shall mean any parent, guardian, legal custodian, or other person having control of the child. The word sex means biological sex. Phrase transgender shall mean a public school student whose parents have stated in writing that the student's gender differs from his sex, or his eligible student that makes this claim in writing. Eligible student is a student or former student who is 18 years old or is a student under the age of 18, emancipated, or the Code of Virginia. So basically within this program, these are highlight: maintain a safe and supportive learning environment free from discrimination and harassment for all students. Prevention of bullying and harassment. Also, identification of the student, that's spelled out in the program itself. Protection of the student's privacy and the confidentiality of the student's information, again, is spelled out in this policy. Enforcement of sex-based dress codes, again, is spelled out also. Students participating in sex-specific school activities and events shall use of the school's facilities, which are spelled out. And then under athletics, for any athletic program or activity that is separated by sex, the appropriate participation shall be determined by sex rather than gender or gender identity. I want to thank each of you all for the considering this request, and hopefully that will be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Peter Caffarelli.
Good evening. My name's Peter Caffarelli. I am a city resident. My bona fides are I am a thinking human being with the ability to reason and recognize when A plus B does equal C or does not equal C. I have no children in LCS. However, I value intelligence, curiosity, and wise education. And I personally would like to see all LCS students get educations at least half as valuable as the one I received in upstate New York public schools a long time ago. I know you guys are all dealing with a lot of very important issues in here, and I thank you for the time and all the stuff you put up with when you're doing this job. I really appreciate it. Now I have some comments about, but more importantly, I have some questions about this board's decision about the LCS gender identity policies. Now, I personally favor no discussion of this issue in schools. Now, if that option is not available, I favor the governor's recommendations. First, I'd like to ask, are you taking into consideration community standards when considering important, perhaps controversial matters? Do you know if Lynchburg residents clearly favor any particular gender ID policy? Don't you think it would be good to know this? After all, it doesn't make sense to foster policies which will sour more parents on the LCS education experience, because this would likely lead to even more students being sent to private or home schools, and would also be a factor in school funding, right? Citizens unhappy with what happens in our classrooms also resist increased funding requests. It's something to think about. Second, let's consider student input on gender ID policies. Now, I don't watch every school board meeting, but I'd like to know, or maybe you know, are the comments you hear very one-sided in favor of current policies or other policies or the governor's policies? Are some of the inputs you're given about really liberal policies being ginned up by trans activists in the schools, students or faculty? And how do you know what you hear in board meetings is representative of the students' wishes? Wouldn't you really need to know if 51% or 70% or 85% of the students would prefer the government's recommendations before you impose more oppressive policies on them? Are the views of these students being repressed? I suggest you take a confidential survey of LCS students to find out what most of them really want. Honest opinions given without fear of bullying, cancellation, or retaliation will tell you what students want to help them become well-educated citizens. Third, how is all the time, energy, and focus on gender confusion affecting the learning environment in our classrooms? The tension, pressure, and anxiety felt by kids forced to deal with gender issues in school detracts from the calm, orderly focus of their minds and their emotions, and this creates a classroom environment detrimental to learning. I hope that you would consider these factors. And in closing, let me just say that I'd like to apologize to all of you for, over the course of the past months, all the snarky, non-productive comments you have to endure from people that have never walked 30 yards in your shoes. So thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Next is Deborah Trefsker.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the public comments. And I agree with the gentleman before me that you do have to put up with a lot, and I thank you. I also would like to speak in favor of Youngkin's policy on gender. My own story is that when I was young in the public schools in Minnesota, I had a very bad relationship with my mother, and I wanted to be a boy more than anything. And I'm so thankful that I did not have people in the schools pushing me in that direction. That would have robbed me of my fertility. I now have 6 kids, 15 grandkids, and they're the joy of my life. So I am in favor, like this gentleman said, of keeping the schools about education, about academics, about education, not pushing students to into this anxiety of questioning their gender, etc. Children are children. How can we have informed consent if they're children? How can they have an informed, how can they know what's going to happen, and how do they haven't even had a crush on anyone yet, some of these kids. How do they know what to expect in the future and what they will want in the future? Anyway, so I just wanted to read a couple more of Youngkin's policies, and I find that these are science-based and legal-based. So number 1, LCS prohibits all discrimination and will comply with all applicable non-discriminatory laws. Number A2 says the personnel will be trained annually in mental health services. And number 3, A3 says each school shall make reasonably, just a second here, each school each school shall make reasonably available with available resources, guidance, and counseling services to all students, and provided in the Virginia Code 26/2010, and pursuant to parental notification requirements therein, including that no student shall be required to participate in any counseling program in which the student's parents object. Except with regard to eligible students, parents must be informed and given an opportunity to object before counseling services pertaining to gender are given. And the next one, B3, says that bullying of any student by any other student for any reason will not be tolerated. So I just wanted to conclude by saying that it seems like these policies in the Youngkin policy are common sense, they're science-based and legal-based, and they protect, most of all, they protect children from what would have happened to me probably if I had been in a school that pushed transgenderism. So thank you.
Thank you. Next community member is David Ream.
Congratulations, Janine Torrey Peters. And minutes do matter. And I speak today about friendship. 3 friends in 3 minutes. The first friend I met in 1973. We played on the same Little League team. I played first base and she played second base. We were 11-year-old kids playing on a baseball team. In 1973, she was the first and the only girl playing in our Little League. We were teammates. We went through that season together, often batting consecutively in the order, playing infield, and becoming friends. Within 2 years, my family moved away from that community. But on reflecting on this talk today, I decided to look her up, and I reached out to her, and we reminisced, and we are still friends today. Next is my neighbor. Our friendship led him to ask me to speak up, and I agreed to speak for girls who, as a result of the Title IX decision of 1972, can play girls' sports without being assigned to a boys' team. My life experience qualifies my testimony that inherent biological traits create a general competition differential that predisposes boys with a physical strength advantage. To deny this difference ignores reality and is an error. The reality known among all humans, since humans have existed, is that there are 2 sexes. Science has developed puberty-blocking drugs to arrest the development of adult sex characteristics. The associated art of their use is dubious, and the long-term effects of altering a teen's internal hormones is not fully understood and is not a promising remedy for any individual or societal ill. A third friend reminds me to open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Interscholastic sports are considered worthwhile, and I speak out for girls in sports to say that they must not be harmed, overlooked, or marginalized in order to address a boy's desire to compete in girls' sports. This third friend, who sticks closer than a brother, suffered for true freedom. He died to give eternal life to everyone who recognizes his death, burial, and resurrection was for the salvation of all people, not by works, but by his unique position and his ability to give eternal life. It is in the Spirit of Christ, I plead, we honor the innate sexual distinctiveness of girls and boys by upholding the common sense of the 1972 Title IX rules without modification. Ideas have consequences. The medical profession in counseling students who transgender need to understand that that decision to transgender entails a forfeiture of participation in interscholastic sports. Thank you.
Next is Gail Goldsmith.
Hello, I'm the pastor of Trinity Episcopal Church. We believe that everyone is created in the image of God. Everyone is deeply beloved to God and to us. And when you love someone, you act for their safety, protection, and justice for them. I'm thinking of Galatians 3, that there is no male and female, but one in Christ. We affirm the gifts of the Holy Spirit that we see in all people. And I'm here because this affects members of our community. It's a matter of safety and protection. These guidelines assume that students have supportive adults in their lives. Many do not. My brother was a high school English teacher during 2021, and he planned with a trans student to support them and help them avoid physical abuse and punishment from their parents. Supporting trans and non-binary students is suicide prevention and harm reduction care that costs nothing. Loving and respecting people costs nothing. Furthermore, these policies don't comply with Title IX, and school boards in Fairfax, Richmond, and Arlington, significantly larger school boards and districts, have said, this is fine. These are already covered by our current non-discrimination policies, and if they can hold off, I think we can. The VDOE policies have at least 2 active lawsuits against them. The lawyers say it's hard to avoid the conclusion that their authors were purposefully trying to erase gender nonconforming students from the classroom, and this flouts existing non-discrimination law and Virginia law that directed VDOE to develop model policies in the first place. Guys, I love living here, and stuff like this makes it hard to keep encouraging friends to move here. I know we would like to all see higher LCS enrollment, and perhaps we would like less bad press. Another thing, I'm a pastor and not a lawyer, and here's the invite. I'm a big supporter of the separation between church and state, but I've seen a lot of talk that references scripture from officials and from other community members, so here's my invite to the school board, to anyone watching. If you are curious about how I get to these points of love and justice, let's meet for coffee and let's talk about it. I'm down for any respectful conversation. Get in touch with me if you disagree with me, are curious, or like where this is going, but want to know sources. And furthermore, here are some talking points about supporting students in schools. I'll leave them out in the lobby for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker, Kimberly Dye-Carsley.
Happy Tuesday. I asked Ms. Day earlier, these are just some other random thoughts I had. The YouTube volume, could you please increase it for those who want to hear? It's kind of low, trying to wash dishes and listen to the school board meetings. Schools need a dress code. There's no way females should be walking into the building or the streets. Can't judge the streets, where you can see part of their bottom with shorts on. Cell phone use, please come up with the policy. We couldn't have it, so they can't either. Fix that, please. Classroom management, I encourage teachers who don't have it that ask for training, and if they don't ask for it and you know that a teacher needs it, please recommend it. I've heard a student complaint about cell phone usage in class by the staff. Don't know if they were a sub, don't know if they were teacher, I am not sure. I will not reveal the school because I don't want the student targeted. They also complained about, they had questions about their work, which was only online, but they didn't want to interrupt the staff on the phone. Code of Virginia 22.1-204.1. Lynchburg Police Department has a curfew. I think Lynchburg City Schools should have a firearm safety education program in the elementary school grades according to the code. Board of Education can establish curriculum guidelines for a standardized program. I looked at the Eddie Eagle Gun Safe program by the NRA. It looks great, and I think I'll adopt it at home in addition to what we teach others. Now, the other reason I'm here. YMCA Teen Center is located at 1315 Church Street, Fairview Rec Center, 3621 Campbell Ave, and then Diamond Hill Rec Center is 1005 17. When I look at the map on summer nutrition meals, White Rock Hill has 0 access points. I was told, because I'm on the School Health Advisory Board, that sites cannot be added due to federal requirements. And if these are required to be eaten at the site location, then that means the meals maybe can't be to go or even delivered. There's no GLTC access throughout all of White Rock Hills, so what are those children to do? Rest in peace to the former pastor of Amazing Grace. He had a site there, but White Rock Baptist could have had a site. Fairview Square Shopping Center could have had a site. White Rock needs summer meals too. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm told we have no recorded comments, so that.
No emails?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Day. The student reps are on summer vacation. The next item is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Mrs. Lowry, a second.
Second.
Mrs. Preston, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Trost?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Dr. Carter?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one is finance report, Dr. Edwards.
Our annual monthly finance report. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jan.
Good evening, Chairman Gupta, members of the board, and Dr. Edwards. In keeping with the theme, minutes matter, I will be brief. Ready, set, go. As of April, marks the 83% of the fiscal year passing. The percent of revenues we have collected versus our original appropriation is at 73.67%. That's a slight decrease over the prior year revenue of about $800,000 at this time last year. The amount of expenditures versus original appropriation is at 76.34%, which is less than 1% difference compared to the same month in prior year. Total expenditures inclusive of encumbrances equates to 97.22%. There were no notable variances in expenditures or revenues that have not already been discussed in prior reports. Bringing you up to speed on gearing up for end of year. As of June, that's the last month of our fiscal year. Here are the things that have been accomplished so far. We have closed POs through the end of May, which was on Friday. We have kept any POs open that may incur related expenditures for the month of June. Those include salaries, benefits, anything payroll related, professional services, or any utility-related POs. We have released all encumbrances that will not have any expenditures in the month of June. We have started the audit process. Go us. We have met with city finance to clean up reconciling items so that the end of the fiscal year, the last month, we will breeze through the closure of that month because items are cleaned up through May. Our current grant reimbursements are up to date through May. So those are some positive things, and we're moving forward. So our monthly report on health insurance, which is on everyone's mind. Our health insurance disbursements, what we paid out in April of 2024 was $1,227,891.32, which was a drop from last month's expense of $278,000 and some odd dollars. Receipts collected were $41,850 less than what we collected in prior month, and the year-to-date total still remains in a deficit of $2,427,244.89. Now, the Finance and Facilities Committee met regarding the preliminary quote that was received from the Local Choice Health Benefits program, and they performed an extensive review of it. However, things, decisions like that sometimes take multiple meetings. So the committee has scheduled an additional meeting on June 13th to continue their review for recommendations to the full school board. And the insurance consultant will be at that meeting to answer questions. So I will defer any other questions related to that to the segment of the Finance and Facilities Committee, so that the school board can ask that committee any questions they deem.
Thank you.
The end.
Not quite, because I have a question. So you said can you repeat what you said about encumbrances for the current fiscal year? You said you closed them out, or?
So we have encumbrances, as expenditures come in, we release those encumbrances so they go into the year-to-date expenditures. So
they'll go into the next fiscal year?
all encumbrances have been released going into the year-to-date expenses and freeing up that projection of them being held back to be used. So our year-to-date is more accurate without those encumbrances in there. And so the only things left encumbered are items that are necessary to be encumbered for the month of June.
So does that mean an encumbrance, some of these get moved into next year's budget?
Well,
I mean,
so
what?
That's a great question, Dr. Day. When you're looking at payroll and benefits do not stop on June 30th. So there is the timing of your payroll, a portion of that folds over into July, and that is taken into account at the end of the year when the auditors are netting out the expenses at the bottom line. They take into consideration there are some unavoidable expenses that are charged back to June, but they happen to occur in July.
I understand.
So when you get the clean audit on June 30th, those expenses that rolled into July will be charged back to June 30th. And so that's how we keep track of those, is the encumbrance, and we have to keep that open to cover those expenses.
Cleaning up the books.
Excellent answer.
Cleaning up the books.
Yeah, well, I wanted to know a little bit more detail what the cleaning consists of.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Do we ask the Finance and Facilities Committee about the option for health?
So they still have scheduled another meeting on June 13th. They have not come to a decision
Okay, that's what I was-
on a recommendation,
No.
a full recommendation to the school board. They have some additional questions, and they wanted to think about the analysis that was presented to them at their last meeting, and kind of go over those one last time before they move in a direction of one way or the other.
That's what she's saying, encouraging people, school board members to come to Finance Committee meeting on June 13th, and they'll be
I'll be out of
discussing
town.
it. Thank you very much. Item
Thank you.
A, school board member reports, Finance and Facilities, Dr. Day.
So this is what we were just talking about. Our last meeting was on May 15th, and I gave you a summary of that at the May 21st work session. Our next meeting, as was just explained, is June 13th, at which time, I'm repeating what Sonia just said. At that time, we expect a report from our health insurance consultant, and one of the things specifically that he's looking at for us is to see if, he said he thought we could make some adjustments to our current self-funded plan that would be a significant improvement. And that's a major part of what we're expecting to hear from him then. We're hoping that at that June 13th Finance and Facilities meeting, we'll be able to formulate a recommendation that we bring to the board at its June 18th meeting.
Thank you. Governor School, Mrs. Lowry.
School's out.
School's out.
Next meeting's August 7th.
Thank you. Laurel Regional, Dr. Carter.
2 students graduated May the 28th. The next school board meeting is in August.
STEM Academy is also yours.
The STEM Academy, we had our meeting today, and Mrs. Cash and the STEM program, they really look look out for the students, and they're doing a math boot camp class in July to make sure that the students coming in are where they need to be, and also to do an assessment about gaps in algebra or whatever else is missing. April the 24th, there was the internship presentation, and Delegate Walker was there and added some words of encouragement to the students. They graduated May the 15th. We approved the budget today, and that incorporated or included a 3% increase in the Central Virginia Community College tuition, but that cost will not be passed on to students. The STEM Academy is absorbing that cost. And also the personnel costs, they're going to provide the personnel with a 3% increase. And also some stats is the attrition rate this year was 100% or zero. Yeah. And also, this is the 9th graduation, and a total of 249 students have gone through the program and completed 15,140 internship hours at 26 places.
Wow.
So encourage students, if they want to do that hands-on, that's the way to go. And they stay close to home and go to some of the colleges. And this year, 7 have been accepted to Virginia Tech. And of course, I have to say 1 went to Sweetbriar. Woo-hoo. And so just keep encouraging them.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. You have been strong supporter and a representative of this board on these two boards, so thank you
You're
for
welcome.
all your service. And the next one is LACRA. Mr. Frost, you got to say something because this is your last LACRA report.
Well, we're happy that we got our calc tool. Other than that, no report.
Thank you for all you have done. Thank you. Partners in Education, Mr. DePaul and Mrs. Lowry.
No report.
Thank you. Education Foundation, Mr. Frost and Mr. Jalil.
No.
Nothing. Beacon of Hope, Mrs. Preston and Mr. Andrews.
We just have a couple of things to add. On Thursday, Beacon of Hope celebrated 38 students and their families on the May 30th annual scholarship celebration. That's in collaboration with Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. And they just launched the 3rd annual summer internship program, which is going to run from June 3rd through the 28th. Local businesses will host 95 student interns across the city. And the new FAFSA applications have been very difficult, for lack of a better word, for the students to deal with. And that has not been just true for the students here in Lynchburg, but it's causing the numbers to be lower than they have been in the past. So they're working to get a grant to help with some of that process.
Thank you. Next one is Ad hoc Committee on Discipline and Policy, Dr. Day.
Okay, so our most recent meeting was May 23rd. And at that meeting, we finalized our recommended changes to policies JFCZ and JFCA. JFCZ concerns cell phone use, and in brief, the changes that we are recommending are that at the high schools, cell phone use would be allowed only during a student's lunch period. Also, staff will incorporate a discipline matrix in the student handbook that describes what happens after a first, second, third violation. And then thirdly, if a student is in violation of the policy and refuses to surrender their phone when they are asked to, they are to receive a 3-day suspension. In addition, we recommend that a task force or working group be assembled to explore the implementation of a phone confiscation procedure along the lines of the chatty wagon that was formerly employed at EC Glass. So when the policy comes to the board, which probably will be June 18th, I anticipate at that time that there will be a motion that would include forming a working group to look at that and perhaps some other aspects of informing students. The other policy I mentioned, JFCA, concerns teacher requests for students to be removed from their class permanently, not just a one-time removal, but a permanent removal from the class. We have had a policy in place for some time that allows that. And we note that a teacher cannot have the unqualified right to expel a student from their class because, say there's only 3 sections of an English class at a school and every one of the teachers is adamant about not wanting that student in their class. Well, the student has to go somewhere. So it's important that the principal needs to adjudicate those requests. But the existing policy already has an appeals procedure for teachers if they're not satisfied with the result or the conclusion of their principal. So the one change that we are recommending is that summary reports of removal requests under this policy are to be made to the school board student discipline committee. And this proposed revision I also expect to come to the board on June 18th. So in addition to these 2 policies that I just mentioned, the committee previously recommended changes to some other policies related to physical violence. These and the 2 that I just mentioned will be looked at by, or maybe were looked at by the Student Services Policy Work Group, which I believe met yesterday.
Met today and working on some revisions and
Okay,
so
so you're
forth, which
still
will be
working on it.
presented as.
Okay. So my hope is that the work of that work group will be done in time for the board to see the recommended policies on June 18th. And then finally, what I would say that this committee, the Ad Hoc Discipline Policy Review Committee, is a special committee under the provisions of policy BCEZ, and it will cease to exist once it has completed its charge. Of the topics that the committee identified for consideration based on the results of our survey in October, the only item remaining to be discussed is that of bullying. And so that will be the topic of our discussion at our final meeting on June 27th. And it may be that we just make a recommendation to the board for the coming year, or it'll be up to next year's board whether that committee continues or not. But that's where that committee stands. So we have this one last meeting coming up on June 27th.
Thank you. Academic Success Committee, Mr. Jalil.
Yes. We are going to, we didn't meet the last time, but we're going to work on having a technological digital addiction expert speak to us either online or come here. He is out of the country for the summer, so that the presentation will be later, but we're trying to get his information so that we can have something to present to the discipline committee about, specifically about cell phones, but there's other things that need to be covered that will help the academic success of the students. So that's one thing that's coming up. Otherwise, we don't have anything else from the meeting.
Should we let, it looks like, excuse me, I apologize. It seems like someone wants to be let in.
I have a question. Ms. Pugh, maybe you can help answer this too. Because our Academic Success Committee is not meeting right now, do we have any finalization on the brochure we were working on?
I gave the draft that we had worked on as a committee to Austin Journey and his team and asked if they could, professionalize it.
Okay.
Because mine was a very rough draft. They have a brochure that had some other information about LCS and wanted to know if that would suffice. And I said, we really wanted this to be about academics and how, especially at the younger end, from birth to, preschool and kindergarten, we could get access to some resources and those types of things. So he and his team are going to be working on it. They were very, very busy for the past 2 weeks with graduation and end of the school year. So probably in the next couple of weeks, they'll come up with a draft, and I can certainly share it with the committee members at that point in time.
And so, and I had mentioned a poster about CVCC and
I never got a draft.
Yeah, but I was I'll probably drop that off to your office just to chat with you about. Okay.
Now, I will remind you that we don't have a budget for publishing the posters and or the brochures. So if that's what the school board would like to do, then it will be up to the school board to find the funds to do that.
Right. Thank you. Next one is item L1, 2924 LCS, Comprehensive Strategic Plan Extension.
Sure. Just before I get to that, for committees next year, you all may know that we as superintendents rotate throughout Region 2000, the 5 of us, who's in charge of or who supervises which regional program. So next year, I am slated to supervise Laurel, which really means whoever is our board liaison is also the chair of the board for Laurel. So just as we plan forward, just know that that's an additional responsibility that LCS has. Comprehensive strategic plan, our planned, current plan is set to expire at the end of this month, and we had talked with the school board about either A, we would have to put in our new plan, or B, have an extension on the existing plan for 1 year as we continue to work on the rest of the division, things that we're doing going forward. So, up for vote.
So I would like to move that we extend the existing plan for 1 year.
Second.
Mr. Andrews, Dr. Day, Mr. Andrews, any discussion?
I think we have no option. If you've looked at that plan, it's, I don't know, 30 pages long, something like that. There's no way we're going to produce a new version of that in a couple weeks before the end of our school board term. So I don't think we have any alternative but to extend the current plan for 1 year and realize that for next year's board, that will be a major item that we'll be talking about throughout the year, is designing the next 5-year plan.
Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Just asking if it can be extended for 3 to 6 months instead of a year, or is that not feasible?
3 to 6 months goes by so quickly. A year goes by
If
quickly.
we get it ready in that amount of time, we can go ahead and approve it, but I personally don't want to tie our hands that we have to get it done within the first 6 months.
Well, I would just like to take another look at it, and we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. There's a number of strategic plans out there that we can actually insert and just adjust a little bit to adopt. If it's possible, I'll take the lead on it just to present something later on, and we don't have to do anything about it. But I would agree with extending it if we could also edit it at some point in time between now and a year from now, so we can jump on it. We don't have to fill our time the following year with it, that's all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gilio?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Trost?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Dr. Carter?
Just one moment. What is this? To extend it for a
Yes.
year?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Next one is M1, ESSA Grants, 2425, Dr. Edwards.
Okay, these are our standard Title I, Title II federal grants that we submit every single year. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Pugh to quickly go.
We bring up the presentation. As Dr. Edwards said, these are just a review of our applications for the federal program grants under Every Student Succeeds Act, which is ESSA. The first grant is Title I, which is improving the academic achievement of the disadvantaged. The purpose is to provide all children with using Title I funds to improve student outcomes, specifically including academic achievement in math, reading, language arts, and science. Our anticipated allocation for next year is a little over $4 million.
That's for 1 year.
Yes, sir. Next slide. It is used both at the division and school level. At the division level, there's staffing that's allocated. Part of their salary is paid through Title I. There's a heavy emphasis, which is required through the grant, on parent and family engagement at the division level as well at the school level. There is also a portion of this that is for neglected and delinquent students. There's a set-aside piece that's allocated to that, and then we can also use some of this at the division level for professional learning. Next slide. The next grant is Title 1D, Subpart 2, which is prevention and intervention programs for children and youth who are neglected, delinquent, or at risk. And again, this is to provide educational and support services for those identified students. Our anticipated allocation is 52,000, a little over, and almost 600. You can go back. Thank you. It's really to improve educational services for children and youth that are in local, tribal, or state institutions for neglected or delinquent children or youth, so that they have the opportunity to meet the same challenging state academic standards that the rest of the students in the state do. We can also use some of these funds to make transition from correctional facilities to locally operated programs successful. And then there's a prevention of at-risk youth from dropping out of school. So those are some of the things that we can focus on. Use of this in Lynchburg City is, again, stipends for hourly academic teachers or tutors that are working with those identified students. Paying for contracted services for mental health, medical, dental, and we also provide some equestrian therapy. And then there's an indirect cost. Some of these grants have a division level indirect cost that we have to take off the top. I think you can go to the next slide. There we go. And that's 2.4%. And that's just, part of the requirement of the grant, so that if there are any costs that are at the division level that we need to cover, we have that. Next slide. The next is Title II, which is focused on supporting programs to increase academic achievement, and this really focuses on increasing the number of qualified teachers in classrooms, increasing the number of qualified principals and assistant principals in our schools, and then increasing the effectiveness of those teachers and principals. And it's through professional learning and professional development that really focuses on student achievement. Projected allocation, you can see there, is close to $500,000. Next slide. And we use, again, that for staffing. There are several positions that are split funded using some of this money. A big portion of it is professional learning. And this is one of those federal grants that we are required to offer equitable participation of private schools. And so off the top of that, $500,000 will come close to $120,000 that we will need to then disperse to our private schools that choose to take advantage of this. Title III is working with our, Title III is working with our English learners, and our anticipated allocation is a little over $28,000. We've, looking at some new language instruction educational programs and academic content for our EL programs. A lot of focus on school-wide programs for restructuring and looking at how we can not only serve our EL students, but also our EL families. That's a requirement of Title III. Next. So again, these are just some of the uses. Stipends for work outside of contract time for some ESL staff, software, professional learning, instructional supplies. And again, this is one that has that division level indirect cost that's taken off the top. This is one also that has equitable participation of private schools. And then, as I mentioned, some funds to support parent and family engagement and outreach. Title IV. This is supporting, it's student support, so sort of like student services, and then academics. So there are three pieces to this. One is well-rounded education. One is improved school conditions for student learning, and that's the student support piece. And then improving the use of technology to support academic achievement and digital literacy. Our anticipated allocation is close to $300,000. And you can see here, those are the three categories that are required. The well-rounded student, which is the academic focus, and we have to allocate a minimum of 20% of our allocated funds to that area. Again, safe and healthy students is a minimum of 20%, and that's around behavior and student mental health and wellness. And then technology, there is not a minimum requirement, although in the past years we have allocated some of that, so that helps with professional learning. And again, you can see some of the uses here for Title IV. We do have division social worker and division case manager that are split funded using some Title IV, some professional learning, and then again, some of it goes to private schools, and then this is also one that has indirect costs. And those are the federal grants that are, that we are submitting, and we need to submit them to the state. And so I am asking if you would not mind to approve extending the division, to approve these grants.
But we need a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve.
Can we ask questions?
Let's, during the discussion, motion to approve the second.
Second.
Dr. Carter, now discussion, Mrs. Lowry, go ahead.
Do we have enough EL teachers so that the ones we have are not overwhelmed with a large group of students?
We have over our SOQ requirement.
Okay.
Our EL population is growing, so.
Yeah,
we
that's why I
want
asked.
to have additional teachers, but we currently have
The minimum.
quite a few more than
Okay.
is required by SOQ.
I have a question.
Dr. Carter.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Carter.
Well, that question leads me to ask another question. Do we have enough, like, interpreters, especially Spanish, for each student that needs that at their given school? Or is there any way to make sure that they are all in one, so they can, so no one else will have to interpret or try to interpret or use the telephone, the cap, whatever they're using?
Most of our ESL teachers do speak a second language. Typically, it is Spanish, and I don't have it in front of me, but I don't believe Spanish is really our top language anymore. I believe it maybe, I'm not going to say it, but I will get the answer to that, and I will let you know. I can get Dr. Edwards to send you an email with that information. But some speak multiple languages. We also sometimes there are staff across the division who speak a second language, and we can use them sometimes to have those conversations. But we will, we have this year for the first time contracted with some outside interpreting companies that will provide us interpreters for different languages, because it is very difficult. We do have a service that does document translations for us, but it also has a phone call, option where you can speak, but then there's someone kind of translating in between. And it's very difficult when you're like at orientation or enrollment, those types of things. It's very difficult. So we really try our best to have someone on staff who can be on call to interpret for our students and families.
Okay, and
Go
I
ahead.
had another question. On the second slide, it talked about some groups of people, but does that also have provisions for the emancipated student? Are there any resources for that student?
On Title I-D,
Yes, or any of those numerous grants are there?
they're not specifically, emancipated is not specifically
Identified,
mentioned in those. Title I-D Subpart 2 is really specific to local, tribal, and state institutions for neglected and delinquent youth. So I can certainly look into that, but that's not specifically mentioned in the grant itself, in the wording.
Right. Or any of those grants, right?
No, ma'am, not that I recall.
Preston?
Just a question. Will or can some of these funds be used collaboratively with the VALS program at all?
With VALS,
Yeah, because you.
with the Virginia Literacy,
Uh-huh.
they will support it, but it can't be used, let's say if we needed additional resources for textbooks or online resources, it can't be used for that,
Collaborative.
but it can be used to support staffing and professional learning that support the Virginia Literacy Act.
Can't supplant.
You can't supplant, yeah, so.
Oh, last question, even though we did the cell phone policy. For our EL teachers, do they use Google Translate? No, because then you can converse with the child or the parent. And I don't have a Samsung. They have just upgraded their technology. I have an Apple. But that you can just speak and they speak back, and then that way until they
I'm
are
sure they
learning the
do.
language. Okay, all right. I was gonna say that might alleviate some stress.
Yeah.
You good? Mr. Jalil?
Which of these grants are repeat applications and which are new?
They're all repeat.
I'll repeat.
These are the applications, these are the federal applications that we can apply for year after year. And these are the ones that we apply for. We submit our applications to the state. We have our anticipated allocations. Sometimes it comes in above, sometimes it comes in lower, but this is what's been anticipated, at the state level. But these are repeat. These are things that we do year over year. Now, I will say that each application has specific overarching goals and actions. We monitor those throughout the year. We collect data because we have to provide at the end of the year data on what we said we were going to do, and we have to submit that to BDOE. So we have to use the funds as they said we were going to have to use them, and each of these has goals that are set, that are measurable and timely. They're SMART goals, and then we, again, as I said, collect the data, review that, and then we have to submit that to BDOE so that they know we've done our part.
Sounds good. Additionally, I hope that one day they provide a grant to fund a grant writer to help you guys to do that.
That would be wonderful.
Good. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Trost?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Dr. Carter?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next one is item M2, transgender student policies. Dr. Edwards. Good. Come to you, or should we?
I think that's
That's
on
you.
you guys' side. I was like, oh. That would be, I guess, Dr. Day.
Dr. Day?
Okay, well, we have been hearing public comments about this for some time now. We've had legal advice in several different closed sessions. The policy we have before us has been vetted by our attorneys. So I would like to move that we make this an action item, meaning that we can make a decision on it tonight, rather than it's just listed as a discussion item in the agenda. My reasoning being that I don't see anything to be gained by further delay.
Second.
Is it Dr. Day and Mr. DePaul? Any discussion on making it an action item? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Trost?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Dr. Carter?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Can we ask Dr. Brown if there was any discussion today that would suggest that we might need to wait to do this? And he's available online, isn't he?
You gotta vote yes or no. That was part of the discussion.
Then I would have to say no.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
I'm changing my vote.
She changed her vote, so.
No.
Now it's an action item, motion carries?
Motion carries.
It's an action item.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Day, back to you.
That's a good case.
Well, so we're now faced with the decision of deciding whether we want to implement this policy or not. And my opinion is that implementing this policy is the right thing to do. So I will move for adoption of the policy that we have before us and that was attached to the agenda.
Second.
Dr. Day made a motion to approve as presented in the board docs.
And it was seconded by Mr.
And Mr. DePaul. So any discussion on this policy? Dr. Carter?
I cannot support this policy. And has this policy, have we talked about this in a session like this or just in closed session?
It's in closed session.
Yeah, so I don't think we should rush to do this, but I can't support this. I think our policy as it stands meets the requirement. And even one of the counties near us, Amherst, didn't change theirs. And I don't think we need to change ours. It meets what it meets and provides for every student. This one here is just, and we haven't even talked about it, all of the details of it or anything. Just in closed session is the only time we've ever really talked
This
about it.
policy is pretty much verbatim what was recommended by the governor quite some time ago, so there's nothing new. The terms of this policy have been in the public for some time. We've had public comments about the specifics of this policy. We even had some tonight. So it's not as if there's secrets in this policy that are being revealed for the first time tonight. It's been on the table for quite some time now. And I respect that there are different opinions about this. Some school boards have elected not to adopt it, others have. So I don't think what we're here to do is take a vote among other school boards. Our obligation is to decide what we as the Lynchburg City School Board think is the best policy for our students. And I think that this policy is appropriate and needed. And so that's why I'm supporting it.
Other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gilio,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
No.
Mr. Trost,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes?
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Dr. Carter,
No.
Mrs. Preston,
No.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one is N1, Superintendent's comments, Dr. Edwards.
Yep, just typical end of the year comments and celebrating all of our graduates. We had very many graduations between ESSA Glass and Heritage and Laurel, and also Project Search. We had graduates at Project Search as well. A couple quick things just from the Education Foundation. I don't know that it was mentioned, but we did have a wonderful grant reception at ESSA Glass where we had our students and our staff showcase some of the things that they've done this year, including some amazing app development by elementary students. I'm so impressed with the work that our staff and students do. We also participated in Citizens Academy and represented LCS. We had a night at LMS, and it was pretty packed in there. I think they a lot of very great questions and enthusiasm, so that was wonderful. Well, a couple of us got to go to Military Signing Day, and although this was the first time we tried to pull that together in a short period of time, and although our students were unable to attend, it was a very nice ceremony at the D-Day Memorial. And we're going to try to make it annual, so we have some advance time to plan for that. But we did recognize our students. And just a shout out, as always, to One Community, One Voice for ending our school year with lots of bikes and just happy children who are going into the summer with their bikes. So we are very, very excited about that.
Thank you. Next is board comments. Mrs. Lowry, we'll start with you.
Just two comments. I want to say thank you to the maintenance and facilities team and for keeping our schools up to par and beyond, so that's great. And also, I really missed the international festival that we were supposed to have. I went last year, it was fabulous. So, under the threat from it said in the paper, the Queer Town Hall, to put that under threat, and Mr. Bendith saying that for the safety of everyone, that, they canceled it and all the money people lost and the vendors. I don't think that anybody that threatens our city should be on any of our committees, and I think we should take that into account.
Thank you. Mr. DePaul.
My first time in Ireland, I was hanging out in Dublin, and one of the things I noticed was how they refer to their attorneys. They call them solicitors.
Yes, that's a British term.
So
A lot of stuff.
With that, I just wanted to say that this past year has been very much a wonderful opportunity for me. And I wanted to sincerely thank the good Dr. Carter and Sir Randy, the solicitor, for a wonderful opportunity to learn. You have both educated me. You have helped me form change and form better decisions. And I really want to let you know how sincerely I appreciate getting to know you. I'm going to miss you, and I want to, and, I know you're not going anywhere, but, to say wish you well is just a small thing. I just want you to know I appreciate you very much, and I really enjoyed working with you on this board.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Mrs. Preston?
Well, I have to echo those comments.
Yeah.
I think
Excellent.
until you sit in one of these chairs, you really don't have a great appreciation for the difficulty of the decisions that you have to make and how you need to look at all aspects and points of view and that sort of thing in making your decisions. And those decisions can't be your decisions. They have to be based on what you believe is right for the children in this community and for the folks in this community. And I think you both have done an excellent job of doing that. So you're great role models for the rest of us, and do not pretend like you don't know my number when I call.
Oh, and following that, I'll echo what you said. I put down a scary word to hear from any board member's eye. When you hear a lot of ayes, you should perk up because there's a problem. I just want to say, this is my last board meeting, so some of the policies that we did.
Work session.
And there's a special one on Thursday.
Yeah, this is the
schedule.
major one. The policies, we did the dress code, got rid of that index cards, and it was all targeted to women, girls, Cell phone policy, we got rid of that. Now I see it may be rearing its head and come back. The volunteer policy, and then we did the curriculum studies, and I remember when that was presented, it was so convoluted and so complicated until you really needed 3 PhDs to understand it. I think we've made changes there. And the 2017 is when we started looking at salaries of our employees. And the reason why is because our employees was used for the city also to look at the salaries, and they gave increases to their employees, and our employees were used in those data and didn't get the raises. The first vote was for board chair and vice chair, and you don't know who you're voting for, so someone tells you who to vote for. And also, that second vote the same night was for the Empower Academy. And Dr. Coleman, he was a year before me, he kept saying, change it to the Empowerment Academy. So that won over, and that was the first vote. And also, in 9 years, we have had 2 direct reports, which are 2 people that reported to us, Dr. Braybrand and Dr. Edwards, like I'm gonna forget your name now. And done 9 evaluations for the superintendent. And I always say, I would never be a superintendent to have someone that really doesn't know the job evaluate you. Do you know how?
Weird.
That is just, it shouldn't be. And then also work with 3 board clerks, Wendy Sullivan, who did this manually, and then Denise Spinner and now Tina Day. Christy Maseri.
Yeah, she was there.
we had board clerk Christy Muservy
Before me.
Tina.
It's okay.
Yes, and I just forgot that name. And also 9 budget processes, and none of them have ever been the same. Never. And also, now on a sidekick, I was gonna say how much money I started when I was first on the board, how much money we asked for, but I had computer problems, so didn't get to that. But I was just glad to go to the Sandusky Elementary's honors dinners. All the students that had made scholars throughout the year, I think it was 6 of them, and everyone that had made honor roll, and that was just great. And also the STEM Academy banquet, and then to be able to shake hands with all the graduates of Heritage High School. Some of them were students from my church, and for somebody that I worked with, her daughter, and it was just great to see neighborhood kids, to see all of those.
Thank you. Dr. Day?
Well, since we seem to be sort of reminiscing about what's transpired this year, this is my second year on the board, and I only have 2 years to compare, not 9. But certainly this year has been quite different than last. This board has been quite different than last. And so I certainly expect that next year will be quite different than this year. Next year's board will be quite different. Now, we don't know at this point in what way, because a lot of that depends on choices the city council will be making later this month. It's been a lot of hard work. In my case, a fair number of sleepless nights wondering about how should we do this and that. But I'm grateful for the congenial relations I've had with all my colleagues. So thanks to all of you, and for those of you who will still be here next year, I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you, Mr. Trost.
Well, this is my last, I guess, regular scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
That's
We
a
have
good
a-
one, regular
there.
scheduled meeting.
And I will say that I have really enjoyed working with my colleagues on the school board, developing friendships, and continue to expect those to grow into the future. We have a very professional board. You can see some other communities don't have as professional of a board as we have. One up north, you have assault charges on board members. So we haven't gotten to that. Yeah, yeah. I want to thank Ms. Day. You're fantastic. You're tireless. You're professional. You're there when we need you. Yet to have an issue that you have not been able to direct me to and give me guidance, and I appreciate that 100%. Dr. Wodeka, staff, fantastic. Appreciate everything you do. You've been there, tireless working. Dr. Edwards, you have a difficult job, very difficult job, and I've said it many times before. I think in the corporate world, but I won't say that too much. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want Mr. Edwards to hear me. And Ms. Pugh, you are fantastic.
Thank you.
I owe you an apology, because maybe you don't remember, but I have not forgotten. My first board meeting at EC Glass, in my nature, I get aggressive, and I was too aggressive with you on something with respect to some books. And I want to apologize for that, because I was aggressive with Dr. Edwards, and I apologize, but I've never had a chance to apologize to you for that.
Thank you.
And I don't forget. And you deserve better treatment. You are a consummate professional, and I am constantly amazed at your depth of knowledge of the school system, your ability to address difficult questions with poise and professionalism, and you are truly an asset to not only our school system, but our city.
Thank you.
And you deserve far more accolades than you ever get, and I want to make sure that I say that personally. From me to you, you are fantastic, and a very good school board system, and a very good staff, Dr. Edwards, and I commend you for organizing it and leading it. A lot of work to do. It's a difficult school system to do what you do, all of you do, and as Ms. Preston said, you do not know how challenging your job is, until you see you guys in action and working hard, and see, I don't have to walk in your shoes, fortunately, but I see what you guys have to go through. And then, as you all know, and thank you for the minutes matter, and they do matter to me. I'm very guarded with my time, but I'll say for everyone on the school board and your school system, the children matter. And you just take, if the school staff, if the public could walk through the schools and see how much our staff, your staff, our city staff care about the children, you'd want to give them raises beyond what we're able to give, because they truly care. And it's one of the most fulfilling things that I've done, is had the opportunity to go to the schools and having a chance to go to all of them and read. But it's so fulfilling to go and interact with the children. It really fills your heart. I hope I'm able to still do that after I'm off the board. But thank you again. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for tolerating my aggression when I come in. Sometimes I'm coming off a deposition or what have you, and I'm hot. But thank you again, and I look forward to continuing our friendships in the future.
I was just going to tell Mrs. Pugh, he's a lawyer who knows the tort law. So pain and suffering for 3 years doesn't go just with an apology. There should be a big fat check coming.
Thank you so much, and apologies apology accepted. I don't remember it, but apology accepted.
I'll take the check on your behalf. If you
I remember it and kept it in my mind for all these years.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, you
Thank
do
you.
wonderful work.
Thank you.
Mr. Andrews?
Thanks to all the groundskeepers, mechanics, maintenance personnel, custodial staff for everything that they do. And the award ceremony was amazing just to see those people get recognized for all the years of service that they provide. And just being behind the scenes, they don't really get the credit that they deserve. Shout out to Leidra McQueen for her new role as the executive director of Beacon of Hope. She has some big shoes to fill with Laura Hamilton leaving, but if I know Leidra, she's up for the task. And then last but not least, thank you to Ms. Cruz, Ms. Campbell, and Ms. Bennett for their leadership with the division literacy plan. You've been talking about closing the achievement gap for a while now. I think we're on the path to do that. So thank you for their leadership, and then of course thank you, Ms. Pugh, for your leadership as well. So yeah.
Mr. Jalil?
So many comments need to be emphasized and repeated. I've really enjoyed hearing all these great commendations, I'm impressed with the board. I've had a great year here with these two especially that are leaving. I'm thankful for their fellowship. I'm thankful for their insights and composure. Very professional, that's for certain. And I do, like Randy said, look forward to seeing you in the future. And I'd like to piggyback on the retirement of some people. Specifically Nancy Hunt, 38 years, retiring. I want to mention her. And Jennifer Mariner, 40 years, LCS. It's tremendous. There's another one from a different situation. I'd like to thank Miss Sprinkle for over 2 decades of work. And I don't know the details of all the different ones that are leaving LCS and going off from the different schools, but I'm thankful for their time here and their work here, the ones that served well. And I just noticed that there are a couple people in the HR report that decided to withdraw their move out, and I thought that was great. May more of those happen. So there's so many more things that can be said, but I'm thankful for those things especially today. And congratulations to all those who succeeded in keeping the grounds in an excellent condition and getting those awards today.
Thank you. Last one is mine. I think we thanked everybody. The graduation went very well, so Dr. Edwards, please convey a sincere thank you for all the people who work in the back. You don't see them. You know, camera people, ground crew, picking up chairs, making sure, LPD, it's a team effort for graduation. So it went very well, and appreciate everything. And I was thinking back, elementary school graduations, you know. Every school had a graduation. I hope you had a chance to visit some of them. And Randy, I'll miss you. And Dr. Carter, I don't know if you know, Dr. Carter, I've known her before.
Right.
I was her dissertation chair. So, her dissertation, it means she did learn something in writing that dissertation. So, and Randy has given me his conference room in his building, so I'm going to go use that glass classroom. So thank you very much, Dr. Wadka, Mrs. James, Miss Day, you're wonderful. Nothing can happen without you. Means she's on my speed dial for cell phone, and she always picks up. You know, a lot of people don't pick up your phone, but she does pick up all the time. So, and thank you, Dr. Edwards, for everything you have done. So we now move into the informational items. Discipline Committee meeting Thursday, June 6th. Special School Board meeting June 6th at 5 p.m. Finance and Facilities Thursday, June 13th at 3:30 p.m. Next School Board work session is June 18th at 5 p.m. Ad hoc Discipline Committee, Discipline Policy Review Committee is June 27th. Next School Board meeting June 9th at 5 p.m. And I need to talk, we'll discuss it. You and I talked about maybe July 2nd, so we'll come back, see if we want to keep it on 9th or move it to 2nd. So next item is Q1, notice of closed meeting. See if I can read it right so I don't violate any procedures. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A1, the school board needs to convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing, the following specific matters, the superintendent's evaluation. Is there a motion to go into the closed session?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. DePaul, Dr. Carter, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Trost?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Dr. Carter?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're in closed session now. We go upstairs or stay here?
Can we stay here?
Stay here. Hope is here.
Yeah.